West Virginia can close out the season with 7 wins. They clinched bowl eligibility, but now they're going for win number 7, and there is still a very, 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 very small chance they could play in Arlington if things go their way. But they have a tough task as they travel to Lubbock, Texas, to take on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, who are vying for their 8th win of the year and who also have a very, 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 very small chance of playing in Arlington. And we're here to talk about it on this episode 18 of the Golden Blue Breakdown Show, and I'm here with my co-host, Jonathan Martin. Jonathan, what's up, man?
What's going on, Couz? So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying there's a chance.
Hey,
that's right.
If there's a chance, we're going to keep fighting, right?
So that's right.
We'll see.
Neal's not giving up. Neal's not giving up on the guys yet.
Yep, they're not. It's crazy to think that there is still a chance. We'll know by the time kickoff arrives on Saturday based off the Oklahoma State Colorado game. So we'll know by kickoff. But if you're telling me there's a chance and Vegas is saying there's a chance and the Big 12 is saying there's a chance, we're going to ride it out.
That's right. That's right. All right. For those of you who are new, maybe new here, the way we do this, we always do a brief recap of last week's game. In this case, it'll be the UCF win, or win over UCF, I should say. Then we do what I'm now calling the breakdown countdown, where we do 3, 2, 1. It's three key keys to victory, 2 key position battles, and then 1 key player to watch for the Mountaineers. And then at the end, we will give our score predictions. So let's go ahead and get before we get started, though, I can't forget to do this. I need to give a shout-out to the show sponsor, Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, attorneys at law. So hang around for about 35 seconds. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer, your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. All right. Thank you for hanging around and sticking with us here as we get ready to recap the UCF game in our first segment. So, Jonathan, go ahead and get us started, man. What are your initial thoughts on West Virginia's 31-21 win over the UCF Knights on Senior Day in Morgantown?
Yeah, so as you started off the show by saying, 6th win, bowl eligible, all joking about Big 12 title games aside. It's nice to get that win. It's nice to be bowl eligible. Despite our frustrations for the season, last Saturday was good for the seniors. Glad some of those guys, especially those seniors, had some great performances on the field. So, even in a disappointing season, Couz, I'm a believer that any win's a good win, right? I mean, I'd rather have a win, even if it was ugly. May not been the most anticipated game for West Virginia, just with the frustration surrounding everything. But I think you can take away some stuff. The game was never really in doubt. 14-0 lead for West Virginia. Actually, it kind of started early, right, in the weirdness category because West Virginia didn't get the ball first.
Exactly.
So 14-0 lead for West Virginia just kind of had that vibe of it. It never was in doubt. And so, yeah, it was good. It was good to get a win, even though it wasn't pretty at times. It was good to get that win. Good to get the 6th win. Good for the seniors. So many of them, we could just go on down the line, but some of those guys played really well. And so, yeah, so it was nice to get it. It was an ugly day, kind of cold, kind of rainy. And I will say, because I was proved wrong. I said on this very show on our last episode, I thought you had 2 teams that still had a little bit of something to play for, and I thought that Central Florida, knowing that you could win in Morgantown, knowing they had Utah at home this week, they needed both games to get to a bowl, and I was actually surprised. They just didn't seem in it from the very beginning, almost kind of like they didn't want to be there. That surprised me. And West Virginia, to their credit, capitalized on it. So
agreed.
Any win's a good win.
Agree. Yeah, it was definitely a weird game. Like you said, after 18, I think it was 18 in a row, West Virginia had gotten the kick first or gotten the ball first.
Yeah.
And they didn't get it. So that kind of made you wonder, okay, this might be a little different. I picked against UCF just because I picked against West Virginia just because of the all the negativity surrounding the program and just all the crap that's going on. I just was worried about where their head would be and all that. But I knew deep down that I thought it was a favorable matchup for West Virginia just because of I felt UCF's weaknesses, lined up well with what West Virginia likes to do and those kinds of things. But I just didn't have a good confidence in the team and the way they would come out and approach the game. But they proved me wrong. So hats off to them, hat tip to them.
Yeah.
Credit to them, as Coach Brown would say. So yeah, I'll take the L. And
same here. Same here. And despite our many frustrations with the program, with Neal Brown, I don't think there's one thing you really can't argue is the team still plays hard.
Absolutely.
And I think I'll speak for you as well. And if this is patting ourselves on the back, so be it. I feel like we have been critical when we felt that it was needed, but hey, we've praised when it's needed too. We've tried to be fair here. And, his teams always play hard. And I think you saw they left it out on the field and they played really hard, never quit. And now this week's going to be different, a different animal. But yeah, any win's a good win and certainly we'll take it.
Absolutely. All right. Let's go ahead and jump to our next segment, which is the 3 keys to the game. And for those of you who haven't watched the show, we go back and forth. Jonathan gives a key, I give a key, and we do that until we each give 3. What is your number 1 key to victory in this game, or your first key to victory for the Mountaineers?
Yeah, so those that have watched the show before know this. Those that don't, I'll give you a little bit of insight. We don't share notes, so it's the first time we're kind of hearing each other's keys to victory, position matchups, etc. But with the sake of running the risk of spoiler alert here, I got a feeling we're going to cross paths a little bit because I could have listed the same thing on all 3 keys, but I just started at number 1. You've got to stop the pass. I mean, that's obvious, right? I mean,
yep.
Captain Obvious over here. You're going to have to stop the pass. Tech's going to throw it all over the place. We're not breaking any news when we say West Virginia's pass defense is not good. And Texas Tech loves to throw the ball. And so, they're 11th in passing offense. They fling it. One of the leaders in the Big 12. West Virginia, obviously, statistically is not good against the pass. So I think this is going to be kind of like Baylor in the sense of I think Texas Tech's going to throw deep, but they're also going to kind of dunk you a little bit too. So how West Virginia handles that as compared to the Baylor game, we'll see. But to put it obvious, you're going to have to somehow find a way to stop the pass. Quite frankly, I don't know if it's going to be possible, but you're going to have to try and find a way. So.
Yeah, I go back two games ago to the Baylor game, and I remember Baylor throwing early on in the game. They were throwing screen pass after screen pass after screen pass.
Yeah,
and West Virginia's defenders could not get off blocks to make the plays.
Mm-hmm.
I could almost envision something similar to that happening again this week, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
With Taj Brooks coming out, they've been using him more in the pass game lately, coming out of the backfield, and he's a monster to bring down. I'm sure we'll talk about him more later in the show.
Oh, yeah.
One of the best running backs in the country. And I think he's ran for over 100 yards, like 18 of their last 21 or 22 games or some crazy number like that. I forget what the stat is. But if they utilize him in the pass game and force these West Virginia linebackers to play some coverage and have to tackle, I don't have they're tackling fairly well, but trying to tackle him in space coming downhill with his man, he's just a strong running back, man. He can flat run over you, very strong lower body. That worries me. So I totally agree with you on that. It's not my key. I was just kind of piggybacking on what you were saying there, and I totally agree. It's going to be critical.
Yeah, I agree.
My first key, I think West Virginia needs to score first and score early and jump on Texas Tech. The reason I say that is West Virginia is going to try to make this They need to play a different game than what Texas Tech. Texas Tech likes to go fast. They average about 80 snaps a game, I think it is. And West Virginia is normally in the 60s.
Yeah.
So they even had one game this year. They only had like 43 snaps. So, I mean, they like to slow the game down. Now, they'll go fast at times offensively, but more or less, they like to utilize the run game, slow it down, be methodical, control the clock, those kind of things. For West Virginia to do that, you don't want to get behind early because that forces you – that then turns you into a passing football team, and that is not who West Virginia is, okay? Now, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll stop there, but I'll talk about the passing game more later. But West Virginia needs, in my opinion, just like last week, West Virginia, despite getting the ball first, the defense got a 3-and-out. They jumped right on the UCF. Offense comes down, scores, they go up 7-0. West Virginia forces a turnover, they get it back, they score again, it's 14-0. That's the kind of game, that's the kind of start West Virginia needs this week against this high-powered Texas Tech offense who loves to throw the ball around because West Virginia is not built to come back.
No,
they're just not.
No.
It's not what they need, what they do. So they need to get ahead and try to stay ahead if at all possible.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, Couz, on this show before. One of the things West Virginia is going to have to do, what's the best way to keep Texas Tech's offense from rolling? Keep them off the field.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure this is going through – if it's going through my head, it's probably going through Neal Brown's head. Obviously, you hope you can win the toss or somehow get the ball first.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, run that ball down the field, slow it down, take some time, and limit that Texas Tech offense from being on the field much, because that's going to be a key. And I don't have that listed, the run game. I don't have that listed much, but that's just because I'm not mentioning it. Doesn't mean it's not huge for this game, because that's one way West Virginia can try and combat the Texas Tech offense.
Yep. Agreed. So, so this is actually one game I've complained about Neal taking the toss so much or taking the ball first so much. This is one game I actually want him – think he should take it first.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, all right, what's key number 2 for you?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it. No surprise, it's still talking about the Texas Tech offense, but it's containing Taj Brooks. He's really good. And you kind of touched on they're throwing it to him now. You had mentioned that note 18 times over his last 21 games, he's ran for over 100 yards. Here's a pretty interesting one, too. 21 consecutive games of 95 yards rushing.
Wow.
21 consecutive.
Wow.
So I think one thing you're going to have to do – now I'm not trying to compare – the Texas Tech offense to the UCF offense. It's a little bit different. Correct. They do have one similarity, though. They're going to feed that horse in the backfield. R.J. Harvey was really good last week against West Virginia, and it's easy to say, well, he ran for 130. True. But overall, it just felt like West Virginia kind of contained him. That was a game where he could have gotten 170, 180. I mean, it almost had 200 yards in the making. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was getting them early in chunks. And so I think you're going to have to kind of mold after that a little bit. And if you can limit him into that 115, 120, and if you're lucky, if you can limit him on about the 100 yards, because 21 consecutive games running for at least 95 yards, I don't feel confident West Virginia is going to be the team to break that streak.
Right.
So let's just say you give up 95. You've got to try and keep him underneath that 120, 130 range like you did last week, because you're going to have your hands full defending the pass. We know that. So if you can kind of contain him a little bit, it frees you up a little bit more on the back end.
Agreed. Great. I love it. And, we kind of touched on the run game. I talked about getting out to a lead early, jumping on early. Well, I'm going to segue that into my second key, which is, and you kind of touched on it, run the football. You've got to control the game, and you do that by running the football. Like you said, keep the defense off the field, keep that high-powered Texas Tech offense off the field. Texas Tech right now is first in the league in scoring offense at 37.4 a game. They're second in total offense at 450 yards per game. They're third in passing offense at 292.5 yards per game. You don't want that on the field.
Yeah.
But Texas Tech is ninth in the league. So so they're in the bottom half of the league in rushing defense, giving up 147 yards a game.
Yeah.
West Virginia is near the top of the league. They're like top 5 or 6 in rushing offense. So if you can run the ball effectively, like they did to start the game against UCF, but hopefully maintain it throughout the game. They're going to need to do that the entire game.
Yeah.
Last week, UCF kind of adjusted and was able to kind of slow that running game down late. West Virginia needs to run it early, run it often, and run it successfully, and try to do something similar to what they did against Oklahoma State and put about 250 yards, 2 to 250 yards of offense on the ground, man. And that they're going to need Garrett Green to help with that. They're going to need CJ to have a game like he had last week. Jaheim, I mean, they're going to need all hands on deck here because they need to run the football, and they need to run it a lot and hold the ball for about 35 minutes.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And that's going to be the dilemma there for West Virginia, right, is that you're going to want to run the ball because you think you can have success on it, number one, but number two, you want to try and keep that offense for Texas Tech off the field. The other part of it here is, going into this game, you're going to be able to have success throwing the football.
Right.
Texas Tech's pass defense is last in the Big 12.
Yes.
I think they're 132 out of 134. I mean, respectfully, if you think West Virginia is in a bad spot, Texas Tech's even worse. So it is that balance, right, Couz?
Right.
Like you want to run the ball because you want to kill some clock. You want to keep Texas Tech off. Gosh darn it, you almost feel like you can make some plays right there throwing that ball down the field. So we'll definitely be curious to see how West Virginia attacks that defense and which one they put a little bit more weight in, running versus passing, or just trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
But Texas Tech can give up that big play on passing defense as well. So it'll be interesting to see what West Virginia does there.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see them tie what you're talking about with the passing game. I mean, I talked about jumping on them early.
Yeah,
maybe you run the ball one time or two, and then you throw it deep, or maybe you come out of the game throwing it deep. I don't know.
Yeah,
get yourself a lead, and then start pounding the rock a little more. I don't know. There's got to be a balance. I mean, I do agree with you. They're going to have to take some shots. I don't disagree with you there at all. But West Virginia has got to play. My fear is they do that too much, and you kind of play into Texas Tech's hands a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not, and I don't want to give away too much here, but that's why I'm not super excited about this matchup. Because I just don't know, you know what I mean? But anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
What's your third key?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it on your first key. Mine's similar to that, and that is to win the first quarter. Texas Tech is outscoring their opponents, Couz, in the first quarter 120-69.
Wow.
So they're getting on them early. And so, again, I think that kind of goes back to what I was saying. If in the perfect world, if you're West Virginia, you can get that ball early and maybe just take some time off that clock and just keep that offense. I will say, maybe I should know this, but I don't. I don't know if it's a situation where Texas Tech is much like West Virginia, where they always want that ball first. I would imagine with that defense, they probably do. And so that they just march right on down the field and just kind of score every single time. Based off of a 120-69 scoring difference in the first quarter, I'm going to imagine that's the case. And so for me, it's winning that first quarter because that's going to set the tone. Are you playing behind here and having to keep up with touchdowns, or are you going to be able to manipulate your way down the field, running the ball a little bit and burning some clock? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, for me, winning the first quarter is going to be really important.
Great. I like it. I think it's great. A great key there. My third one, and again, it all plays in to the controlling the clock, running the football, controlling the game, playing at your tempo, your pace. But you've got to win the turnover battle. You've got to steal a possession or two away from them.
Yeah.
And not give them extra possessions on the other side of the ball. Because, again, every time you give, the Texas Tech they've put up 50 points a couple times this year, I think.
Yeah.
Haven't they? I know at least once. I'm pretty sure they've done it a couple of times. So, like I said, they're leading the league in scoring offense. So, 37.4 a game. So they're going to put up points. You're not going to keep them out of the end zone.
Yeah.
But you don't want them in the end zone on every possession, right?
Yep.
And this is going to turn in. I feel this is going to turn into one of those games that you're just going to have to outscore them. And if you want to outscore them, then you may need a couple more possessions than they have. You do that by forcing some turnovers. And obviously not giving that turnover back to them.
Yeah, it looks like they've put up 50 coups twice this year.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
They do have a 40, 49, and they've also got a 66 in there.
Wow. So you're not even counting that as a 50.
I'm not even counting that as a
Wow.
50. So
okay. Wow. So,
so
they put up
but
50 plus 3 times.
Yeah, so your point is well taken. They're going to score. So yeah, if you're West Virginia, you can't give away stuff, right? Because we can break this down a million different ways, but does it not just have all the makings of just a flat out shootout, right? Like
it does.
And arguably it's going to come down to the one team who's driving and makes that mistake, that one interception, that one fumble, whatever it would be. It just screams major points scored here,
Maybe a special teams blunder or a special teams touchdown, something like that.
Yeah,
which Preston Fox has been that close 2 weeks in a row to breaking one, man.
Oh, he's going to get one. He's going to get one.
Yep. All right, now we're going to move over to our 2 key position battles to watch. What's your first one?
Yeah, so for me, I've got Garrett Green versus this Texas Tech secondary because I do think West Virginia is going to try and throw the ball. Look, I realize they want to run it, and I'm advocating for that. But numbers are what they are, right? 125th in scoring defense. They're giving up 36.3 points per game. Their pass defense is last in the conference because they're giving up 456 yards per game, the Texas Tech defense.
Holy cow.
That's rough. But here's one thing that kind of caught my attention. Texas Tech has 12 interceptions on the year.
They do.
So for a pass defense, is that bad? Now, is that just because teams are throwing it so much it kind of levels itself out? I don't know. To put it in perspective, West Virginia has 4. And so I feel like people are throwing on West Virginia an awful lot too. And so for Garrett versus this secondary, you're going to have to be able to make plays. But to your point just previously, nothing forced. Right, because it's going to be there. Mm-hmm. So not forced. So even though Texas Tech's given up some yardage and some points, they've also got some takeaways. And so Garrett Green versus that secondary, it's going to have to be accurate. We've talked all year about how he's attempted these long passes to Hudson Clement, Traylon Ray, who's now out. Justin Robinson could be a weapon now. We saw Princeton native Dom Collins in the game last week. Word is they want to work him in this week for some stuff, especially deep versus Texas Tech secondary. So if you're Garrett, you're going to have to make plays. But as you noted in your last key to victory, you're going to have to limit because Texas Tech can take the ball away from you despite their struggles in the secondary.
Yep. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and bolt onto that because that was also one of mine. And, no surprise, right?
No surprise.
The Texas Tech secondary versus Garrett and the West Virginia, just the pass game in general, really, Garrett and the receivers. Look for a big day from Hudson Clement. He had a really good game last week. He had 5 catches for like 80 yards, I think. And a couple of those catches were like huge end-of-down catches to save drives. One on a 4th down that I recall for sure late in the game that really sealed the game, to be honest. And then, he had 1 or 2 other really nice catches too. So look for a big game for him. But when just to bolt onto your stats there, I was looking at the Pro Football Focus grades, and it basically bears out what you said. They have the worst coverage grade in the Big 12. West Virginia, just perspective, West Virginia's PFF coverage grade is 51.5. Texas Tech is 49.1. And here's the difference, though. The big differences in those two. West Virginia's pass coverage grade has been trending upward the last couple of weeks. They've had a couple of weeks in the 60s. Texas Tech has not been higher than 59 the last 4 games. So they're actually trending in the wrong direction. They had some better games. Now they started the season out with like a 38 grade against Abilene Christian, and then they were gradually doing a little better. They were in the 60s. I think they even had a game where they were in the 70s. And then, boom, it's starting to fall again. And these last 4 games, they've not had a grade over 59 in pass coverage. So there will be opportunities in this game for Garrett Green to take the top off of this defense or to make some, get some nice plays downfield.
Yep.
Whether it be just, go routes, whether it be corner routes, post routes, whatever. There's going to be opportunities. And they need to take advantage of that. Again, I still think they got to run the ball to keep balance and control the clock. But Coach Brown's going to have to find the spots to pick. He's going to have to pick his spots.
Yeah.
Take some shots and take advantage of that weak secondary, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I was looking here at last week. Texas Tech played Oklahoma State, put up 56. Oklahoma State threw for 316.
Yes.
Ran
with a backup quarterback, by the way.
With a backup quarterback. Yeah. Backup quarterback. Ran for 165. They had 2 receivers with over 120 yards receiving. Now, the flip side of that is Texas Tech threw for over 400, and Taj Brooks ran for 133. So is that 56-48 that game was last week? Is that what we're in store for? Possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly.
So what's your second position battle here for this week?
Yeah, so for me, it's going to be you could tailor this 2 different ways. You could go – I went offensive line versus offensive line.
Okay.
Or you could go defensive line versus defensive line. You could go either one. So we'll just say interior. And here's what I mean by that. We have established that there's going to be a lot of points. We have established there's going to be a lot of passes, a lot of yards. It's going to be high scoring. One thing that I thought was pretty interesting, though, Couz, is that Texas Tech's likely to have 2 starters along the defensive line out for this game. Both left the game against Oklahoma State last week for ankle injuries. They're questionable for this week. So if you're West Virginia and Texas Tech's already struggling on the defensive side of the football, and they've got a couple linemen that are out, I think you need to capitalize there on the West Virginia side. And if you're Texas Tech, how can you disrupt Garrett Green, right? I mean, West Virginia up front, that's been a staple for this offense. They've been really good along that offensive line. And so it'd be curious to see how Texas Tech plays them. So the battle of the interiors, I guess, we'll just kind of word it like that. In a game like this that we anticipate to be high scoring, and it's a word that we have used a lot on this show, is disruptive. Mm-hmm. Whichever one of these 2 can be disruptive, because, hey, the realistic truth is we love Garrett, but under pressure, he's been prone to make some mistakes. And so if they can be a little disruptive for him and make him move and into forcing some throws, as good as Garrett has been under pressure and in forced situations, he's been prone to turn that football over. And so that could likely be the difference there too. So up front, West Virginia is going to have to protect.
Yeah. Great point about the injuries. And I actually was listening to a Texas Tech podcast earlier, and they've got a bunch of guys that are questionable. Now, a lot of those guys will play.
Yeah.
Unlike Neal Brown, I guess Joe McGuire puts out an injury report. I don't think Neal Brown's put one out since the first game of the season, to my knowledge. If he has, I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he talks about it. But I mean, West Virginia, we were talking about the passing game earlier. Traylon Ray's out, right? Yeah. He's out for the rest of the season. He was West Virginia's number 2 receiver. Jaden Bray, another receiver, has been out almost all season. They brought him in from Oklahoma State, hoping he would be their number 1 guy. Hence the reason they're having to bring in, guys, true freshmen like Dom Collins to try to fill that gap, to get some speed and somebody that can take the top off the defense, because the guys that had been doing that, or they thought were going to do that, are both injured.
Yep.
So, and Traylon actually had done it some, right? I'm not saying Hudson can't, but I'm not sure that's his strength.
Right.
So, yeah, the West Virginia's got some key injuries too. So I appreciate you bringing that. And speaking of injuries, don't forget to go see Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner, your personal injury attorneys, if you've been injured in a car accident and you live in the state of West Virginia or Virginia. Call 304-999-HURT or go to yourlawyervoice.com today. All right. Had to give them a little bit of a plug there. My second position battle, I'm kind of flipping the script on my first one. I'm going to West Virginia secondary. This is the obvious one.
Yep.
It's been one of us have used this every game pretty much. West Virginia secondary against the Texas Tech receivers. I talked earlier about how Texas Tech may utilize the screen game a lot, just like Baylor did, because they're going to see that on tape, and they have a running back who can have success at it. But they will also make plays down the field. I mean, they've got a receiver named Josh Kelly who has caught 80 balls for 803 yards and 5 touchdowns. very good. He can burn you. Can Garnett Hollis, can Dantes Fagan, can Jacoby Spells, whoever is in the game, can they cover that guy and his teammates? Because he's got some talented teammates as well. Can they cover him and his teammates and prevent the big play down the field? Oh, and by the way, you also better be on the lookout for the screen game because they can hurt you there too. And they have some talented tight ends that can hurt you down the middle of the field. So they're just talented. They have talent all over the field on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah.
And that West Virginia, I say the secondary, really it's the pass defense as a whole. Can they prevent the big play in this game and try to keep everything in front of them? Can they force Texas Tech to make long, sustained drives in the game? I think that's going to be critical here.
Yeah. Typical Texas Tech, right? I mean, they're going to fling it all around. They got a good running back, and they share the wealth. They've got multiple guys that can catch. So, yeah, certainly have their hands full. If this is a repeat of Baylor, it's going to be a long afternoon because Baylor fits what I anticipate out of this game out of Texas Tech, right?
Yep.
They're going to pitch in the screen game in the flats. They're going to be able to run the football, but they're also going to get you deep. And so, be curious to see if West Virginia took that film and was able to work on it because they're going to be tested. Absolutely, not just underneath, but long. So, we'll see.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and shift gears now and go to the one player to watch in the game. Jonathan, go for it.
Yeah, so I was a little bit torn here. Surprise, I'm going to go offensive player because I do think there's going to be a lot of points. And I went Rodney Gallagher.
There you go.
I tell you why, Couz. He's been so close this year. It's been a little awkward because I feel like they've really tried to figure out a way to use him. And it's mostly just been in kind of reverse type stuff. And I feel like last week his catch not only was a huge touchdown catch, that was an acrobatic catch.
Yep.
That was talented catch. And you know what, Darn, I think there's a little bit of confidence right there. And so in a game where I think West Virginia is going to be a little short at the receiver position, I anticipate Rodney to get some touches this week. And I think Rodney might have himself his best game as a Mountaineer.
I like it.
Just a feeling.
Yeah, and I even forgot to mention him earlier. They're going to need they need him to step up and make plays with the absence of Ray and Bray. So great. I like it. I'm going to go Captain Obvious with Garrett, and I'm going to say Garrett Green. We've talked about how he's going to have opportunities to make plays in the pass game. We need Garrett to be – we need accurate Garrett. We need that Garrett who was one of the best in the country at big-time throws down the field last year. We need that Garrett back in this game because there's going to be opportunities to do that. Can he take advantage of it? But the main reason I picked Garrett is because of the run game. Garrett is most dangerous when he's running the football. Texas Tech has struggled when they've played true dual threat quarterbacks. They have a tendency to struggle. I'm going to give you an example. Early in the season, they played Washington State and lost to Washington State. Okay. Washington State has a quarterback named John Mateer, I think's his name. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. He carried the ball 21 times, 197 yards.
Oh.
So now they haven't played a lot of true dual threat quarterbacks. Sorsby, I think Brendan Sorsby had a decent day. I think he ran for about 52 on them in 12 carries, which is not – that don't sound like a lot, but you got to – there's some sacks in there too. But Brendan Sorsby's not really a dual threat quarterback either. That's not what he likes to do. So when Garrett Green should be able to exploit some weaknesses in that Texas Tech defense in the run game in this one, I think. And this might be one of those games where you see Garrett get about 100 yards on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, this could have Baylor last season for Garrett Green written all over it. Right? A lot of yards throwing, 100+ running, 2 touchdowns through the air, touchdowns running. Yeah, great. It may be obvious, but that's okay. We've done it a lot. It screams a Garrett Green afternoon for sure.
I like it. All right. Now the fun part. Score prediction. This is where we either make West Virginia fans happy or make them all mad. So what is your score prediction?
Yeah, there's one thing I know, Couz, and it's that I don't have a clue.
Same.
I mean, I feel like I've tried every strategy. I've analyzed everything about every single game, but you just really don't know from week to week, right? And so because of that, I'm just going to go with what my gut tells me. Because let's go all the way back to episode 1 of the Gold and Blue Breakdown. And we talked about the season. We broke down each game. And we both said what about the last game of the year? We did not want to go to Lubbock.
Yeah.
It's just historically, it's a tough place for people to go. And when we look at that schedule at the very beginning of the season, we were thinking 8 wins, 9 wins, 10 years, and we missed the mark there, but a lot of people did. But one thing we were in agreement on is, Texas Tech, the end of the season on the road. I didn't love it then, and I don't love it today, because I think they're going to throw. They're really good at West Virginia's biggest weakness. I think it's 52-48, Texas Tech. I just think West Virginia is going to try and slow it down. If it makes sense, I think Texas Tech is so bad in the secondary, you're almost going to have to throw the ball. And I could see this being a game where West Virginia gets behind a little bit and is forced to try and catch up in chunk yardage. So I think it's going to be a 52-48 with a lot of those points coming late in that fourth quarter. So
I'm kind of hearkening back to the Houston game a year ago when the West Virginia defense struggled in that game and Houston was putting up a lot of points. So Garrett started throwing the ball, and lo and behold, that was kind of his breakout game as far as throwing the football goes. He had a really good game, and especially in the second half there. Hudson Clement had that really long pass receiving touchdown there to put West Virginia ahead in the final seconds and before they blew it. But this game to me could be similar to that. I think both teams are going to put up points. I'm with you. And I'm like you. I don't feel confident that West Virginia is going to be able to slow down this Texas Tech passing attack. I think Baylor was able to put up 49. I think Texas Tech breaks 50. I think they score 52. I'm saying 52-42.
Okay.
Texas Tech.
Yeah. Can't hate it. And West Virginia has a lot this season. They've went for fourth downs because of the defensive issues. Texas Tech, very similar. I think going into this game, West Virginia is not going to win this football game by kicking field goals.
Nope.
So I anticipate a lot of rolling the dice as Neal Brown has on fourth down, and even those 4th and 4s, 4th and 6s. I think you can kiss those 40-plus yard field goals out the window. I'll be surprised, depending on the situation, Couz, if West Virginia attempts a field goal. I mean, maybe on a 4th and 11 or 12 on a 38-yarder, they might go for it or something. But I just feel like you're going to see the offenses on the field going forward at every opportunity, every chance. And I just think it's going to be a really high-scoring game.
Yeah. And if Colorado wins that game, I think, is it Friday night they play?
Friday at noon, I think.
Okay, Friday at noon. If Colorado wins that game, West Virginia's chances of going to the Big 12 championship game are done, right?
They are done. And then at that point,
what do you have to lose, man?
Nothing. You're going to a bowl. You're not really. I mean, what's the difference in the Independence Bowl and the?
Gasparilla Bowl or whatever.
Yeah, however you say that or whatever it is. I mean,
I just made one up because
I think that's right.
Yeah,
I think
that's
right.
projected for that one. I think in something, but anyway, I'll be honest. A lot of people like reading those bowl projections. I find it to be ludicrous, personally.
Yeah,
because everybody picks a different one, and it never ends up right.
Who had West Virginia in the Duke's Mayo Bowl last year, and it used to be a little bit easier, I think, right? Because they were just slotted. If you were third in the conference, you win here. If you were fourth in the conference, you win here. But Colorado and Oklahoma State play at 12:00 on Friday, and even if that one goes in your favor, goodness gracious, you need a lot. Neal Brown probably feels a little bit different. What's the difference in 6 and 7 wins? His seat's a little bit probably warmer than ours is right now. But yeah, I just either way, I anticipate this for both teams to roll the dice, a lot of fourth downs, to heck with field goals, because you're going to need 50 probably to win.
West Virginia, to me, to win this game, if this game gets into the 40s, West Virginia's not winning it, in my opinion.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think they'll struggle to win it if it's high 30s. That's just not West Virginia's game, man. It's not what they do. It's not their identity. And they're not – I don't know that they're comfortable playing. I'm not saying they can't do it. They have in the past. Yeah. But it's not really what they want to do. But again, Texas Tech secondary is so bad. Maybe they do decide to go that route. I don't know. That's why I don't get paid $4 million to make those decisions. Real quick before we go, Jonathan, I always intend to do this earlier in the show, and sometimes I forget. Let everybody know where to find you and your work.
Yeah, so I'm on X, Twitter, whichever one you're still calling it these days, at Jonathan K. Martin. I'm easy to find on there. There's no H in Jonathan, so at Jonathan K. Martin. And I'm kind of best known for just I do a lot of live tweeting during the games. I'd love to interact with you. Come on over there. A lot of links to your stuff here where we kind of collaborate together, and so, yeah, easy to find. And I do want to say before we end, this Gold and Blue breakdown has been a blast, Couz. It's just kind of new to me. You're the man when it comes to this type stuff and kind of leading the way on it. I didn't quite know what I was getting into when I agreed to show this on camera to start this season, but it's been an absolute blast. And so going into the last regular season of the weekend, I just want to say thank you for it. I've enjoyed it. For everybody that's listened, everybody that's watched, everybody that's given feedback and interacted with us, it's been a blast. I appreciate it. I know Couz appreciates it. And I think we're going to be able to maybe keep this mug around just a little bit longer to have some fun. So
this marriage is not ending yet, man.
So I've had a blast with it. I hope everybody following the show has, and so we're going to have some more fun.
That's right. That's right. Listen, everybody, thank you for tuning in. And by the way, if you're listening on podcast, it's Jonathan, Jonathan Martin, and I'm at Couz206. Find us on X. And there's also we do have the show has a page too. It's at GB Breakdown _. We don't do as much over there as we should, but there is one over there. If you want to interact with us through that, you can send us a DM or something there as well. You can go to my website, couzescorner.com as well. There are blog articles over there written by some of my some other Couz's Corner team members and a few by myself that I've done over the course of a few months. And we just appreciate everybody. I appreciate you supporting our work. I appreciate you watching, listening, reading, everything we do. Without further ado, we are done for this show. We'll see you on the next one. We're out. Q Country Roads.